So today I'm gonna do a video about my thoughts and reflections, pardon me, on anarchism. So first off we'll start with a little bit of what anarchism is. So anarchism in base form is political philosophy or ideology that believes in destruction of hierarchical associations such as state or any kind of power over another, any kind of laws or any kind of governing of individuals or wider society. So the base idea of anarchism is both a rejection and destruction of the state and authority in general, and also laws to some extent. Well, it depends on your type of anarchism. There are a few different types of anarchism. I'll go through maybe 3 or 4 of the main types of anarchism. So I'll go through individualist anarchism. So individualist anarchism is the idea that the individual's will, so if I was an individual anarchist, my will is more important than any kind of external determination such as the law, the government, or even your next door neighbour. Essentially, it's the idea that the individual is more important than the collective or anything else, and laws and ideologies nothing other than that ideology really matters. So that would be kind of quite an egotistical view of anarchism, I guess. There's the idea of collectivist anarchism, which is kind of like anarchism that is against private ownership of production means, a little bit like socialism, and against statism too, and just an idea of small collectives who make decisions democratically. No real state as such, just sort of small pockets of communities, essentially. So they're like base anarchists, except rather than just opposition, some idea of sort of being together as a collective and having the means of production, but not really producing a state or a large form of central control. Then there's anarcho-communists who, again, they're against like state, money, private property, but they're still in favour of personal property, somewhat, kind of in favour of common ownership, means of production, direct democracy, and like small councils, small voluntary associations, and basically sharing among whoever needs. I think it's from each to their ability to according to need, something like that. So that's anarcho-communist. And then there's also anarcho-capitalists who aren't really anarchists. I mean, it's not a real thing. It is a real thing, but to me it's not a real thing. I mean, an anarcho-communist is basically the idea of is basically the idea of abolishing the state and abolishing legal controls, but not abolishing capitalism and that kind of trade. So it's like the idea that corporations would rule the world rather than a large governing body, which would probably be against most anarchist philosophy, but it's a fairly new branch of anarchist philosophy. It's essentially neoliberalism with a different name, but it didn't really take off properly because it's not really anarchism as such. Anyway, thoughts and reflections. So I've been both an individualist anarchist and a collectivist anarchist. I was an individualist anarchist because I guess angry at the world. I enjoyed having the control over people, and I enjoyed getting together with other individualist anarchists and not worrying so much about anything. Now, what people think of when they think of individualist anarchists are nihilists, but whilst they are fairly similar schools of thought, they're not the same school of thought. For example, and with individual anarchism, laws and such don't matter, but that doesn't mean that moral boundaries don't matter. You know, it's not like they're morally nihilistic necessarily, and you know, they still generally believe in reality itself. So they're not actually they're not nihilists. They're a small separation away. The problem I found with individualist anarchy was that essentially it's not any different to the mentality of a dictator. I mean, by that rule, by the rule of no law or any kind of government or anything is above the individual, it's not. There's nothing to say really in that school of thought that you can't just become the next government and the next dictator, because that's, you know, that's well within your reach. You can do what the fuck you want. You can make those laws and you can oppress people. So essentially, it's a very strange form of anarchism. Generally, the individualist anarchists I've met are anti-capitalist, and I don't think most of them would be for becoming the next dictators, becoming the next fascists as such. Most of them seem to be, you know, really relaxed hippies who just want everyone to get on and do whatever the hell, but have a more of an emphasis on the individual. And the rest of them seem to mainly just be angry punks who are just sick of the system in general and just rebel because it's fun. And I see why it's fun. I see why they want to do that. But anyway, as a reflection on that, yeah, I enjoyed that, but there weren't enough boundaries in it as far as a society goes. I mean, for me, it was great. It was quite a selfish ideology, but individualist anarchism is not a nice form of anarchism, really. I mean, if it works, it works, but I can see a lot of bad things coming from individualist anarchism. Then with collectivist anarchism, I actually joined a small anarchist collective in Australia. I don't know if they'd call themselves anarcho-syndicalists. I was a collectivist anarchist. Did a lot of propaganda of the deed, a lot of protest together, and I mean, a lot of people bash anarchists and say that they're not very well organised and etc, etc. And for the most, I'd say like 70 to 80% of them aren't organised, but these people were having regular meetings and starting up a federation. They knew people in the rest of Australia who had anarchist collectives, so they were actually fairly well attached to each other. They kind of knew what was going on, really. Another thing that's been dealt with is the idea that you need a state to control something, or you need to keep power. I don't know if this is true, I haven't seen it for myself, but I can see where they're coming from. Like, our small anarchist group, we could go make, like, we could go make a commune like the anarchists always do, but to what avail? I mean, that's great for us, but we're not really doing anything with our lives. Like, we haven't helped society, as it were. But you know, I can see why it's appealing. I'd still, say I quite liked anarchy. I enjoyed my time being an anarchist as such. But yeah, I'm no longer an anarchist. I enjoyed it, but I can see its flaws. I guess is my reflection. As well, with the fact that there's no idea of leadership or anything, it's like, who calls the shots? I mean, you need someone to call the shots. Now, I've been to a few rallies and shit where anarchists have said, let's charge, and, you know, people decide to charge or decide not to. That's kind of the idea. But it's like, without a formal thing of control, you're pretty dissociated, you're pretty detached from each other. In the one sense, it's quite, it's got a massive emphasis on freedom, personal freedom, because you can do what you want. Nothing really matters. On the other hand, there's no balance, there's no continuity with anarchism, really. It's just kind of a temporary ideology as such. Anyways, I'll go on to how I got into anarchism. So, a lot of my friends were poor, working class, and Some of them were middle class. I would say I was middle or upper middle class upbringing. A lot of them obviously wanted to rebel. My friends were mainly hippies and punks, so you can probably see where the anarchist stuff came from. They're all pretty much hippies and punks, and then upper middle class people like myself who want to be part of something. And yeah, they were all anarchists or left wing in some way, communist, socialist, whatever you call them. But I got into the anarchy because of the freedom, the personal freedom of being an anarchist. A friend of mine who I'll call Schizo Boy, he was a pretty avid anarchist. We used to do some crazy shit together. You know, as I say, a lot of my friends were anarchists. And I went to a rally at one point in Australia and met some actual organised anarchists who invited me to join their anarchist group. And I thought, wow, that was easy enough. And yeah, before you know it, I became a part of that. And I started living with anarchists out there for free. They put me up for free because at the time I was living with my family and I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And yeah, they put me up for free. Then I moved in with some other anarchists. You know, one of them was gender queer. The other guy, I don't know if he was an anarchist or if he was just whatever. Essentially, he was quite nihilistic in the way he lived. Believed in embracing everything. Always talked about the Ugari Hindus, cannibalism, crazy stuff like that. And I think he would have actually fitted in with the Ugari Hindus. Then I lived with there was also this gay couple that was staying with us. They weren't anarchists. I'm not sure if they were right or left wing. They seemed to just be middle, really. Just gay guys getting around, and it was nice living with them actually. Yeah, they were pretty cool dudes. And then an Aboriginal fella as well, one of our best old friends. I won't mention his name. I don't know if he wants his name mentioned. And yeah, it was a pretty good time. We obviously went on a lot of protests. Took a lot of drugs with some of these people because, let's be honest, anarchists generally are fine with you taking drugs. They're pretty much fine with everything. I mean, they're pretty easygoing people, or you know, crazy protesters. Either way, for me, it was just good stimulation. It was a good way of getting anger out. It was a good way of coming together with people, finding people just as not mental, but the same sort of mentality of myself. So I enjoyed my time being an anarchist, but I no longer associate myself with that just because there's just too much going on in the world to associate yourself with anarchism, and to try and live to one ideology or philosophy is just too much effort. It's just like, it's too narrow-minded as well. Anarchism isn't the only school of thought, and it's not right in every situation as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I guess that's why I split with anarchists. Anyway, thanks for listening. I think I was a bit loose with that, but I'll try to be more put together in my next speech. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed.